Welcome to the video on Lycidas by John Milton. This video covers sessions 6, 7 and 8. When we speak of Milton, we have to speak about the epic or heroic poetry because he is the only poet to complete an epic poem in English language. That too when he was totally blind. Other writers like Spencer, Wordsworth and Keats tried to write an epic poem but they could not complete. There are many definitions for the term epic poem or heroic poem, but the comprehensive definition is given by M.H. Abrahams, who is the writer of a glossary of literary terms. According to M.H. Abrahams, epic poem is a long verse narrative and a subject that is serious, told in a formal and elevated style, and centered on a heroic or quasi divine figure on whose actions depends the fate of a tribe, a nation, or in the case of Milton's Paradise Lost, the human race. It's a poem written for in thousands of lines with a serious subject and in an elevated style. And the uh, protagonist is a quasi divine figure whose actions play a very important role on humankind. There are two kinds of epic poems. First one, traditional epics. It is also known as folk epics or primary epics. The second one, literary epics. The traditional epics. The traditional epics were written version of what had originally been oral poems about deeds of a tribal or national hero during the warlike age. For example, Iliad and Odyssey that Greeks ascribed to Homer, Anglo-Saxon Beowulf, the French chanson de la Roland, the Spanish Poema del Cid, the German Nibelung ended. Literary epics. The literary epics were written by individual writers, poets, deliberately imitating the traditional or folk epics. Virgil's poem Aeneid is one such poem written by individual poet. Homer's Iliad and Odyssey are very popular amongst literary epics. There are many features of epic poem or heroic poem. First one, the hero of the epic poem is a figure of great national importance or even cosmic importance. In Iliad, he is the Greek warrior Achilles, who is the son of the sea nymph Thetis. In Virgil's Aeneid is the son of the goddess Aphrodite. In Paradise Lost, Adam and Eve are the progenitors of entire human race. Or if we take Christ as hero, he is both God and man. In Blake's primal figure is universal man. Next feature. The setting of the poem is ample in scale and it may be worldwide or even larger. Odysseus wanders over Mediterranean basin and descends to the underworld. The scope of the Paradise Lost is the entire universe as action takes in the heaven, hell, and earth, and the cosmic space in between. Next feature is the action of the poem involves extraordinary deeds in battle. Achilles feats in Trojan War, wandering of Odysseus on his way back to homeland. Satan's long journey to the newly created world by God in an attempt to outwit God by corrupting humankind, which was foiled by the sacrificial deed of Christ. Next feature, in these great actions, God and other supernatural creatures take an interest or play an active role. The Olympian gods in Homer, Jehovah, Christ, and angels in Paradise Lost. The supernatural creatures, which were an integral part of epic, are called machinery in the neoclassic age. Next feature is an epic poem is a ceremonial performance and it is narrated in a ceremonial style, deliberately distancing from ordinary speech of the common folk. Hence, Milton's grand style is in formal diction, elaborate, stylized syntax. These are modeled on Latin poetry. There are many conventions of epic poetry. First one, the narrator begins the poem stating the theme and invoking favorite deity to inspire him in his great undertaking. For example, the first 49 lines of the poem Paradise Lost is an invocation to his favorite god, that is Muse. Second one, the narrative starts in the middle of the action at a critical point. The Paradise Lost begins with fallen angels in Ellen determined to take revenge against God. The third convention is there are catalogs of some of the principal characters. These characters given set speeches to reveal their moral attitudes and diverse temperaments. For example, the debate in Pandemonium in the Paradise Lost. Fourth one, the figurative language is used in the epic poems effectively to give them grand style. Lycidas is a pastoral elegy. Now let us come to the poem Lycidas, which has both the features of pastoral and elegy. First, what is pastoral? A pastoral is a conventional poem of an urban poet expressing nostalgic feelings of the supposed calmness and simplicity of the shepherds and other rural folk in an idealized natural setting. It happens in all the ages when we speak of rural setting, we go to the nostalgic feelings and we condemn the pollution and the noise of the urban setting. And what is an elegy? An elegy is a song of lamentation on the death of someone. A pastoral elegy takes the element of both pastoral and elegy and relates them to express the loss. It has features of both pastoral and elegy. The poem Lycidas is the result of the happy and bitter experiences of Milton. The bitter experiences, Lycidas is a product of Milton's bitter experiences and sad memories due to untimely death of Lycidas, Edward King, who was his friend at Cambridge. The happy experiences, Milton and Lycidas spent many happy days in reading and recreative activities at Cambridge, but is no more. Milton is happy because now Lycidas is in heaven with, with the company of saints and other people. Lycidas is a pastoral elegy. Milton's Lycidas, published in 1638, he wrote it to mourn the loss of his friend and poet Edward King, a college friend of him who drowned in Irish Sea while returning from Dublin in 1637. Milton also uses it as an allegory to show a hidden meaning, that is to tell or foretell the ruin of corrupted clergy and moral values. Personification. Milton uses personification to a great extent in this poem. Personification means inanimate things or animals expressing human feelings. In the poem Lycidas, personifying the nature to mourn the passing of Lycidas, Milton uses figurative language to compare Eros' obliteration by death, nature's cruel method in sending caterpillar to kill the rose. Major themes in the poem Lycidas. There are many themes in the poem Lycidas. First one, death. The main intention of writing this poem Lycidas is the death of Edward King, a college friend of him who drowned in Irish Sea. Another theme is rebirth. In the end, Milton says, King is not dead, but is in heaven now after divine judgment. Milton strongly believes in immortality and divine judgment. The third theme is corruption. Milton addresses through St. Peter speaks about corruption of clergy in the church. Conventional features of pastoral elegy with reference to Lycidas. There are many features of pastoral elegy. In this PPT, we are speaking of conventional features of pastoral elegy with reference to Lycidas. The lyric speaker begins by invoking the muses and goes on to make frequent reference to other figures from classical mythology. All nature is mourning the death of shepherd. The mourner charges with negligence the nymphs or other guardians of dead shepherd. There is a procession of appropriate mourners. The poet raises questions about the justice of fate or else the providence and adverts the corrupt conditions of his own time. Post Renaissance elegies often include an elaborate passage in which appropriate flowers are brought to deck the earth. There is a closing consolation as death in this world is the entry to the year life. The poet questions about the injustice done to Lycidas, the justice of fate, or else the providence and adverts of corrupt conditions of his time. To make the detailed story of the poem Lycidas, the poem can be divided into six parts: the prologue, part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, and epilogue. The prologue. In the prologue, lines 1 to 24, Milton invokes the muse to give him strength to complete his task of writing a poem on the death of his friend. This elegy is the result of death of his friend Edward King, who died in Irish Sea. His bitter experiences and sad memories find expression in this poem. The first part, lines 25 to 84, is primarily concerned with the happy times the poet and Lycidas spent at Cambridge. The description is a series of perfectly painted pastoral images. The two friends began their adventure of reading in the morning and it went late into the night. They had also time for their recreative activities, but soon the account goes back to melancholic tone with the realization that Lycidas is no more and he is only the past. The second part of the poem, lines 85 to 131, begins with the poet returning to heavy pastoral images, and he indulges in the delineation of a procession of mourners lamenting the death of Lycidas. The procession of mourners is led by Triton, the herald of sea, and the last one to come is Saint Peter, the pilot of Galilean lake. Milton also gives the reader an image of burning denunciation of contemporary clergy, which was selfish and corrupt, and the sad reality of Protestant Church in England through Saint Peter. The poem seems to be questioning the divine order as the selfish and corrupt live for longer time and the good people die so young. The third part of the poem, lines 132 to 164, is about the flowerets of a thousand views cast on the earth of Lycidas. It is an escape from the intolerable reality into a lovely world of make believe. This part of the poem speaks about bad condition of clergy in England at that time. The fourth part of the poem, lines 164 to 184, Milton expresses his strong belief in the immortality and life after death in another world. Grief, sorrow, and death are temporary, and through Lycidas, he expresses that though Lycidas is dead, he has arisen from the dead after the divine judgment. As Lycidas is in heaven now, one need not weep at the demise of Lycidas. The saints in the heaven will entertain Lycidas with good company and melodious songs. The epilogue of the poem, lines 185 to 193, brings back to the reader the pastoral images again and indirectly refers to the Greek pastoral poets. The conclusion of the poem points to the new determination of the poet to face life hopefully and rise up to the greater poetic achievements in the future. Thank you.